KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're
the Real Estate Rat Pack.
Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now, 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack!
And welcome!
Good morning.
Beautiful Saturday morning and a great show, isn't
I'm
it?
so glad you could make it, too. We know we're counting down the time. I didn't know if you'd be showing up or not.
He
walked in.
Like one of our guests right here, she said, I was so executed to be in here that it took a little bit longer to get here, right, Sandra?
That is true. That is very true.
Darn you, autocorrect!
Yes. and we're still awaiting one of our guests now.
We are waiting one of our guests right now. But, we have a great show coming on board right now. One of the things that we talked about today, we've done this before.
So what are we doing?
We've sort of gone all around the city, but now we're going to bring it back, and we're actually going to be talking about real estate in the Memorial area. And, most people don't realize Memorial is a very old, established area. A lot of good activity going on, a lot of development. The villages are actually smoking hot, as Joe would say.
Been smoking hot for a long time.
Been smoking hot for a long time. And we have three great guests to talk about what's going on in regards to that. And one on the way, that is correct.
Much like the Real Estate Rat Pack, the Memorial area is smoking hot.
Yes,
smoking hot, let me tell you.
I'm really excited. I've known the three that we have on today for a good while, and they are outstanding agents. And Sandra Marconi with Keller Williams Memorial. I almost said Metropolitan. Excuse me.
Did.
What an insult.
I think she said it and then took it back, right?
Which is not an insult to Keller Williams Metropolitan. But I've known Sandra for a long time. She's a great producer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And also, David M. Young of the David Young team with Coldwell Banker, who offices right there on Memorial. Welcome to the show.
Just west of Kirkwood.
Just west of Kirkwood. And David and his father have been doing a team for a long time, but David was telling me earlier this morning that a lot of the business he does is pretty much on his own. So he's got his own identity. So we want to kind of focus on that. But we are going to talk about Memorial today.
Right.
So who would like to start out? Sandra, would you like to be the...
We got Sandra right here. Ladies first, I always say.
Ladies first, sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. So kind of give us a background. How did you get into real estate?
My husband had actually been working in the oil and gas industry, got laid off, and one night we were walking and said, hey, why don't I go do real estate? Got my license. My church family waited for me to get my license, and that's what kind of catapulted me into production.
Well, I told Sandra this morning when we were chatting that I actually use her when I coach agents and stuff, because she's launched her career by saying, you know what, they're doing a billing fund of the church. If you refer me to somebody, I will donate 10% of what I make back to the building fund. So that year, you were Rookie of the Year.
I was.
And so I think what a great, smart way to start a business.
I would absolutely agree. I tell everybody, and I think a lot of our guests would agree with this, is part of what we do in the real estate business is about giving back. It's about being successful at what we do to be able to give back to a certain organization. One of the things that a lot of the agents I work with, and more importantly what we do as a company, is give back to a lot of the profit or non-for-profit or areas of interest that really impact our heart, whether it be through our churches or through our non-for-profit organizations or through things that have happened in our lives. So I definitely relate to that.
But the nice thing, Sandra gives with her heart. It
Yes.
turned out to be outstanding for her, but that was her motivation was from her heart, which
Absolutely.
I always really appreciate. So, Sandra, let's talk about what's going on out there. I mean, we're hearing stuff about multiple contracts. You can't find anything. What's been your experience in the Memorial area?
We've got multiple contracts. We can't find anything. It's great for the sellers. It's a frenzy for our buyers. We're right now, I got an email late last night that we were not accepted on one of our offers, and it's frustrating because we can't find anything. Or when we do find stuff, it's going within hours. And that's, it's tough when you have a buyer, great when you have a seller.
So do you have that little taking them out that where you talk to them about, look, this is what we're experiencing in the marketplace, so don't be discouraged.
We have a very strong buyer consultation with our buyers. We sit down, we tell them, this is what you can expect, and this is probably what's going to happen. We're going to do our best to help you and to get you into the home that you want. But it doesn't always work.
Oh, I know. And one of the things, I think it's pretty interesting because we're all in the Memorial area. My office actually in the Memorial area. as well. And we see this all the time. And how do you counter this? I mean, one of the things that I'm seeing all the time in the Memorial area, which is a very good indicator of what's going on in the market, is Memorial is obviously a more expensive, for lack of a better word, area. A lot of our home prices right there are a little bit higher than the average, 250 median sales price right there. And so I'm seeing a lot of times, $700, $800, $900 million plus homes with multiple offers on them. And a lot of times these offers are going up. It's not the typical 1% over list price or anything. I mean, I've seen deals, be listed up 10% over offer price to be able to get the offer. How are you consulting your clients and getting those type of offers, or what do you do in those cases in which an individual really wants a home and they're going to have to overbid to get it?
Well, they've got to have the money to bring to the table if they're going to do that. And because a lot of times the seller is requiring, if the house doesn't appraise, if they're not paying cash, then you need to be prepared to bring some extra money to the table. And sometimes that's kind of hard to take, because sometimes you are overpaying for a home,
Absolutely.
And so the one client that I had last night, she said, do we need to go over? I don't think the house would have appraised. And then, is it good business to bring extra money to the table?
Right.
So we're really having those hard conversations, and some clients are willing to do that and some are not, And,
and I think it was very interesting what you said, because, a lot of times that what they're willing to pay has more to do with what they want out of the home or like in the home or location than what maybe the true market value at that time is indicated on the property. And so it's important, as you said, to sit down and have that consultation, because that is a big difference. I mean, a lot of clients don't necessarily buy because of where the market is. They buy because of where they are in their life or what they want in their life. Correct.
And I cannot advise a client to bring extra money. I mean, I can advise them and tell them you may have to do this, but in my opinion, is it good business? It just depends on what their needs and wants are. And it's just, it's tough on buyers right now. It's just really, really tough.
There's actually some lawsuits starting to occur. Of course, everything begins in California and rolls this way, is that there's some lawsuits right now that, you let me pay too much for this property. And so we're seeing the reverse action on that. And it's the other conversation we had, and we were at a Houston Association of Realtors strat planning this week in Galveston, and we were talking about pocket listings a lot.
Mm-hmm. I saw that.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about pocket listings. And first of all, a pocket listing, for those listening, it's those that are listed, but they're not put on the MLS system. It's kind of held privately. And there's a lot of reasons to do it. Some people do it for a security reason. They don't want a lot of people coming to their house. We had somebody in the Woodlands on the show. We talked about, the seller said, please make this stop. My neighbors are complaining the streets are all jammed up with realtors in their cars. And they're blocking all the driveways. And it was a real thing. So they started doing pocket listings. And they were networking with a group of realtors that worked that area. So they were still getting multiple offers, but it was not the frenzy. So what are you seeing in your office?
We have had some pocket listings as well. I don't know that we've had quite the frenzy that you're talking about, but pocket listings, they're selling too.
And the question comes up when you're talking about, a fiduciary responsibility that we have to our clients is, did you get the highest and best offer if you have a pocket listing because you didn't expose it to the entire market? What's your feelings on that?
I don't know that you necessarily are. I think it depends on the home, it depends on your seller, and it depends on what they're wanting to net. So sometimes it's well worth putting it in MLS to get that highest and best offer as well too. And you can always kind of curtail how much activity you're going to have, because I know a friend of mine came in the office last night, put a house on the market yesterday, has an offer on it, have an open house today, but it's going to hold off on accepting offers, until Sunday. So that's happening a lot as well too. So that they can see what else can come in.
Clients are always in charge. They're not always right, but they are always in charge.
This is true.
And it's interesting because I'm a big watcher of all the real estate shows out there, right? Like $1 Million Homes Los Angeles and New York,
Lord.
And all the exaggerated real estate that goes on out there. And my sister lives out there, so I asked her one time about the pocket listings. I would agree with you. I think that the pocket listings, while it's good for a certain level of home, you don't necessarily maximize what you can end up getting. Unless you're in a big office, like what everyone is here in this room, in which you can end up, putting it out there to multiple areas. But it's a very interesting thing, because we have such a strong association here in HAR that really, I think by not listing it with HAR, you are minimizing the value you could probably get.
And thank you for not calling it HAR. I appreciate that very much.
I actually met yesterday with a guy. He's got a $6 million house and doesn't have to sell it. but he sees what homes are selling for in Memorial right now. He just finished his house last year in November, new construction, gorgeous house. He says, if I can sell this for $600 a square foot, why don't we do that? But he doesn't want to put it in MLS, doesn't want to sign, doesn't want me to advertise it because he doesn't want everybody he knows going, what's the problem? Why are you putting your house in the
That's an
market?
absolute pocket listing.
Right.
And that's a good pocket listing in my opinion. That would be a perfect example of one.
There's some sites out there basically called Make Me Move. There was one called MakeMeMove.com. I think that's been incorporated into Zillow. Basically, someone says, I'll sell my house if you bring me this, or make me an offer, and if it's high enough, I'll move.
Everybody's got a price.
Everybody's got a price.
That is true.
But the appraisers have a price too.
Yes, they do. Oh, yes, they do.
And they when markets are trending downwards, they take into account downward trends.
Right.
But when it's trending upwards, they don't.
They don't. Well, they're having a hard time keeping up. That's what we have found is that you've got an area of town, that's appreciating, and the appraisers haven't caught up with it. So that's why it's so important to be out there when that appraiser comes.
Well, and the appraisals right now, let me tell you, I think everyone struggles with appraisals a little bit. I mean, we would all, be lying if we didn't say so. But one of the things an appraiser told me the other day is Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, which is generally speaking a lot of the, national-backed security companies for mortgage-backed securities, they're actually now allowing appraisers, if they have third-party verifications of a certain trending of upwards, let's say they can get actual verification that Memorial has appreciated 5% in 2013, they can start incorporating that into their appraisal values versus just looking at the historical values as far as the past 6 months. So it is important to know that. The problem is that they're struggling to get some of those third-party verifications because you have to get it from multiple sources, and it can't be from a area realtor association.
And actually they do come to multiple listing. I mean, most of the appraisers belong to the multiple listings.
Right.
The thing is, when you have a pocket listing, this is what happens in our big discussion, our strategic planning yesterday, was that you don't have the data at that point.
Right.
You have sales occurring, and we don't have the data. We're a non-disclosure state. It's not required that you disclose the price of a home. So what happens is the appraiser goes out there, basically scratches his or her head and goes, we don't know. So, we had some other information disseminated from Dr. Ted Jones, who is a renowned economist. I think most of the people in this room have listened to Ted. And he gave a presentation and said that rates, he said, I'll be standing here next year and rates will be 6 to 6.5%.
I would agree.
Tell me, how is that going to impact, especially the high-end market? Do you think that's going to do anything or nothing?
I think anytime the rates start going up, it affects everybody, whether it's high-end or low-end or middle of the road. So no matter what, I think it's going to determine how much home you can buy. I think people are going to be upset that they didn't jump on the bandwagon. Now, I would suggest if you're on the fence, jump off and let's go.
That's actually why I threw it out there.
Right.
we need some more listings, please.
Right, and one thing that is happening, we're seeing, is that with rates moving up, and rates are going to be up this time next year, they're at least going to be 1.5 higher. There's no doubt in my mind about it. But one of the things we're seeing a lot of people jump back in right now who have been on the fence. We need more people to still jump in, don't get me wrong. But on the other side of things, I tell everybody, is rates moving up is not a bad thing. Rates moving up is actually a good thing for the long-term health of the industry. Why? Because we need to create a private mortgage industry. Right now, everything is government-based. If we don't start creating a private mortgage industry, what's going to end up happening is eventually the government doesn't want to lend money. They don't want to buy mortgage-backed securities. Right. They don't want to enhance the products, and we will see a stagnation of lending.
Yeah. People don't realize, too, when we bought our first home, our interest rate was 16% interest in 83, and that's just what it was. Historically, even 6.5 is still low.
Yeah,
no
I
matter
was
how you
make
cut
that
it.
comment. I said, I bought in 2005, 2006. I can't remember now. And it was I got 8
But
and
you
a
will be
quarter.
moving soon, right?
Yeah,
Kim,
yes.
we're still working on them.
Yes, every week. I got 8 and a quarter, and it was a good rate at the time, and we didn't think twice about that. That was like, oh wow, we got a good rate.
And that's the way rates are going to continue to move up a little bit. But as you mentioned, Sandra, people just adjust to that. When I bought our first home, we adjusted based on the 10% that I was at. And then we refinanced multiple times. People
So did we.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone does.
We
right?
were excited when we got it down to 12%.
Right. So that's what ends up happening is you just end up adjusting down. This is a great subject. We're going to go on forever and ever, but we got to come up against a break right now. We want to hear from you. Give us a call. We're live 800-808-5548. We'll be right back.
My heart won't let my feet do things that they should do.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548 5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Show. You know, it always amazes me how much fun we have in the studio, and then secondly, how fast it ends up going.
That was the fastest 12 minutes I remember in a long time. And sitting next to me right now, and sitting next to Chris also, is David M. Young. I always make that distinction because he is the younger and very active in
the other David Young.
The other David Young.
Y'all are actually working. I'm in the corner with the ladies.
Yeah, well, I don't blame him. Not at all.
Joe's got the good seat in the studio.
We're switching seats next time. But David, you're very active in the Memorial. You're just telling me that you just took on a $3 million listing, and you are actually buying houses in the Memorial area to. Oh, that's right. We're not supposed to use the term flip. We're supposed to put. We're going to extensively renovate and ultimately sell it. But
flip suggests laminate floors. We're not doing that. We're doing quality remodels.
Okay.
But yeah, renovations, restorations.
Let's talk about what your experience in that market, and time on the market, what people are looking for, amenities. Why do people want to be in Memorial?
Sure.
Talk about that.
And the process of buying these houses is tough because of what we were talking about before, and that's all the feeding frenzy that's happening, especially in the Memorial area. You've got so many people competing to be in that area because of schools, energy corridor, the rest of it, great value. So just buying the houses to be able to get in, I'm competing against what we talked about, HGTV viewers, right? So you've got all these people that, hey, I'm going to make $1 million today, and they get in the way. Builders are getting in my way. When we can finally find a house.
Quit beating around the bush, David.
When we can finally find a house that is the ugliest home in the neighborhood, that's the one we want, the one nobody else wants. And then we completely renovate it and put it back at the top of the market. I've got one of those houses right now that I'm going to be holding open today at 10934 St. Mary's Lane in the Rummel Creek area.
You want to repeat that address one more time?
10934 St. Mary's Lane.
And what time today?
At 12 to 3.
And what are you serving?
Water. Air conditioning.
Okay. Well, you said something about competing with the builders, because I have a very dear friend of mine, John Abercrombie, who builds in that, and he only builds maybe 2 to 3 houses a year, but he always builds them in the $3 million range. He's your competitor on that.
Because he'll buy that for lot value.
Yeah.
And he can outbid me on that because he's going to sell a $1.5 million house in that area versus the $600,000, $700,000 house I'm going to put back on the market.
Gotcha. So when you renovate something like this, what would you propose that price is going to be on that renovated property? I'm sure you got some number in mind. Make us an offer.
Yes, on every one of them. We go in. You've got to do all your math before you ever make an offer on these things. But yeah, you've got to go in with your numbers there. We'll go back into the top of the market, and right now in that particular area, that's about $250 a square foot.
About $250.
And what are you seeing people? Speaking of Memorial, you mentioned this at the very beginning. All this stuff. What are some of the things that are driving not only the success of Memorial, but right now the increase in building and flipping, for lack of a better word, and an increase of real estate? Let's go over some of the amenities that Memorial is offering. I've always liked to talk about that because sometimes we get stuck too much in the real estate side and forget about the lifestyle of what actually Memorial offers.
Well, first of all the jobs, energy corridor. I think right now, City Center, Town and Country, is really the epicenter of growth in Houston.
Oh, yeah.
All the way out to Katy and Highway 99 and past that, out to Fulshire. And you've got everybody working in the energy corridor, and now with I-10, easy to flow through on I-10 even at 5, 6 o'clock. Well, for the most part,
easier.
Let's say easier.
Wait till Monday.
So even if you're working downtown, you can come out to the Memorial area for the good schools and for the great investment. I think that's why Memorial historically has done so well. I'll tell you quickly a short story. My father in 1965 bought a house on a half-acre lot that was 2,800 square feet ranch-style house on Bryn Mawr Circle. He bought it for $37,500. 7 years later, in 1972, he sold it for $54,000. Nice profit. That lot sold a year and a half ago for $850,000. They tore it down and built a $3.5 million house.
Wow.
That's why you invest in the Memorial area.
What's pulling the people to Memorial? Is it exclusivity, the size of the lots, Spring Branch schools?
All of the above.
All the above.
And you mentioned City Center. My office is right there in the City Center area. And let me tell you, it was amazing because I used to come to Houston and remember the old Town and Country days, right? Town and Country Mall was the place to be. And all of a sudden they put in that mixed mosh of freeways and highways and you couldn't get to it anymore. And now you go back over to City Center, and let me tell you, it is the cream of the cream. It's the top of the crop in reference to going out there, finding places to do. You've got great eateries. You've got drinkeries, for those who like to drink, by the way. But you have a little bit of everything to do right there. And guess what? It's all right there in that Memorial area. And one of the things that we're still seeing, as you mentioned, is all the amenities that not only are still continuing to grow in Memorial, but also the new school, for example, Frostwood Elementary, brand new school out there. They actually tore down and are building back up right now, be online here within the next year. I mean, you're seeing a lot of neat stuff that's going in Memorial. And as you mentioned, it's such a centralized area. I can tell you, I live out in Katy. And I work in Memorial, and I do a lot of business in Memorial. And it's interesting to see, as you mentioned, that whole corridor, the change that has taken place, the redevelopment that's taken place. What are you seeing in regards to some of the West Memorial side? You seeing that same exact type of growth that's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Our office is West Memorial. We're just west of Kirkwood on Memorial. And there's lots of growth there out along I-10. You go a little bit further west, you've got the hospitals, you've got lots of new office space being built for the oil companies there. You were talking about what is it that draws people to Memorial. When I was a kid and I grew up in Hunters Creek, remember we used to go ride our bikes and play outside, and you didn't wear a helmet on your bike. And you could just stay out until the sun went down. And you didn't have a cell phone.
Water hose.
Yeah. There was no pager. You just got home when you got home. I think that still happens, except they have cell phones now, in Memorial. The kids go out and they ride their bikes and they go down to Bobby's down the street, and then they come back home, and you don't have to worry about them. It's still safe. You've got village police. You've got just a real homogenous area there that doesn't have a lot of commercial development.
But you bring up something. There are 6 memorial villages. 2 are north of 10 and 4 south of 10. And that's what people often talk about it, is that the good news and the bad news about the villages is they have local police enforcement. We know that you get by Kincaid, you don't do 35 miles an hour and things like that. So I think people are attracted to
the police will show up in 5 minutes, not 3 hours.
My old office on Gaylord was a speed trap, let me tell you.
Well, it's right next to the station right there.
Right, but you're right, though. And most people don't realize is the villages do consist of 6 different villages. They do have their independent PDs. They've got their own mayors, et cetera, et cetera. But it's also a very neat way they've set it up because it's still everyone. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of family that live in the Memorial area. And what David got through mentioning, I think, is extremely interesting. Is it's still for all the openness, all these places that you see with all the fences and gated in. You don't have that. You have got a lot of space. I mean, children actually go out to their yards and play and run, for 500 feet and still be on their property line. Yeah. I mean, so you see a lot of that, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's talk about that because we always talk about Memorial Village acre, which in the Piney Point's like 40,000 square foot, but they're not all that large. What's the typical lot size in the villages?
Half acre to an acre.
Half acre.
Typical. There are smaller ones. There's areas of Hunters Creek and Bunker Hill that have 10,000 square foot lots, but you've got exclusive streets like Timberwell that's got minimum 2.5 acres on each of those. The house at the end of that street is the high listing in Memorial at $15 million.
Well, yeah, the only thing I always enjoyed about Memorial is you go through there, unlike West University and things like that, very urbane. This very pastoral feeling because you have a lot of trees, you have ravines, you have vistas, you have the bayou. I mean, it feels good to go through there.
Yeah, this is an area of town, correct me if I'm wrong, that still really has, when I live out in the Humble area. Humble has a lot of history, with Texaco and all that sort of thing. And something that when I moved from a little town out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, Columbus, that when I was in Humble, I said, despite the fact that it's surrounded by a lot of city, it still feels very small townish. And I think Memorial, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of those areas of town that still has this very older feel to it.
Sure. Well, you've got ditches instead of paved. Well, you do have sidewalks, but instead of having culverts underneath, you still have the ditches on lots of these streets, and they want it that way. So it's got a little bit more rural feel to it. You're 10 minutes from Galleria, from Memorial Park. Not very far from downtown. You can get to just about anything. But as soon as you get into Memorial, you're just more relaxed. I live inside the Loop. And when I was dropping off some brochures at the house I just listed on Habersham, 11510 Habersham, cheap plug.
Actually expensive plug.
Wow. Worked right in there.
And I dropped the flyers off the brochures off at the house at night and turned on the gas lamps on the house. And then when I left, I just thought about how quiet, how dark it was. It was as if I was out in the country.
Well, when people first started moving out there, it was the country. People were going, "You're moving way out there?" It was like you got a 1-story ranch. You're sitting on an acre, and you're far removed from the city. And of course, we didn't have the transportation system back then. And of course, then when the Galleria was established in 1960, and people started realizing, hey, we've got a city that's growing west.
Right.
And so then still now it's like you have to go out and try to find lots and reestablish, new construction and things like that. But there's still a lot of the old houses there.
What's amazing is how Houston has grown. I was I was visiting a lady, probably not about 90, 95 years old, right behind the Duchenne area over where the school is over there. And her family used to own all that property around Duchenne, everything. It was their farmhouse. And so you look at this, and she's lived there for 90 years. And so you look at where we stand today, and you drive by that area, you would never believe that, 80 years ago, that was farmland. That was all farm. That was, she owned something like, 80, 90 acres or whatever it might have been at that time, owned everything in that area. And then slowly as they grew, they sold it off to family and friends, and that's sort of what been subdivided. But you look at it, and that's sort of the history of it, though. The history is it's been a very well-established, very neat area. It's been very safe, and traditionally it's been very family-oriented. The farming industry, as I tell everybody, has always been a very neat industry to look at because, it's the work ethic that you see, and you see that in Memorial. The individuals who are living there, very high work ethic, very successful individuals, but also very safe, very family-oriented. The schools represent such.
And Dave, do we still have a lot of the old guard there, people that moved there in the 60s and they're still living there?
You do have a lot of that, but what you have even more is their kids. My generation has moved back. They've gone back there because it's such a wonderful place to be, to raise their families and then stay beyond. I'm looking for a house in the East Memorial area. I want to be close in, right? Still close to the park, close to Galleria, close to all that, but still in the Memorial area.
And what areas would that be?
East of Chimney Rock, before 610.
Okay.
Right.
You said that you're doing some renovation and investment properties. Are you still? It amazes me still, as hot as the market is, that we're finding investment opportunities. Is there any particular areas you've been having more success with, or?
Yeah. Well, why I'm focused on Memorial is because you can buy the older house that's about that a builder would tear down, come back and renovate it, and buy it at a low enough price. There's enough swing value in that market to then sell at the top end. You can't do this in every market. If I go out to Katy and I buy a house that was built in the 70s, I can't do much to that house and still have and still be able to sell it at the top end of that market.
Well, tell me what you're, when you go and say extensively renovating, tell me what you're doing to these houses.
Ripping out the electrical, the plumbing, putting in almost everything you see in this house, all the equipment. We'll put new roofs on. I mean, it's a complete renovation.
So do you take it to the studs typically?
Basically take it to the studs.
And are you saying that people like you to keep it more in its original style, or try to renovate
Absolutely.
it to a modern thing?
The neighbors are so happy with us. They come and say, thank you for not tearing that down and putting up a McMansion, So they really like that, keeping the character of their neighborhood. And the people we buy it from, a lot of the time, it's the kids. And they remember growing up in the house. And so they're really glad to sell to us versus a builder who's going to tear it down.
That is awesome. We're coming up against a break right now. If you want to hear more from David and all of his shameless plugs of everything he's got going on in reference to real estate, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
A little bit of me and a whole lot of you. Add a dash of starlight and a dozen roses too. Then let it rise for 100 years or two. And that's a recipe for making love.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Show. And time flies when you are having fun. And, we have a late but never one that we don't want to have on the show, Tammy Bateman. How are you doing, Tammy?
I'm great. Good morning.
Well, we don't, some people like to have an arrival.
That is correct. That is correct. And Tammy made a great arrival today. And she's with Tammy Bateman Properties inside the HEB.
That's right.
It's amazing because I'm always over there because one of the things is every time I go on my diet, I end up going to that HEB all the time and eating at that orange plate special, by the way. And I always see your office there. And it's such a great, beautiful office that you've gotten there. You're able to see all the listings that are going on. Let us know a little bit about, I always ask this question, why inside the HEB? How is that, and how'd that come about?
Well, Chris, what happened was we are, of course, Memorial area agents, and that corner was being developed, and really Memorial needed something like that in the neighborhood. So it was initially by accident. We were going into the grocery store, just kind of looking, and there was big red letters that said "for lease." So the wheels started turning like, all right. So I wanted to be in the quadrant in that corner, and it was like, well, we're sitting ducks here. Everyone has to walk by our window. And then, of course, we made it so nice, and the way we showcase our listings and everything, everyone's curious. And it just made sense to locate it inside the store.
And I actually said it was brilliant. I had talked about your business with somebody in our office, and they said, "Ooh, why would they want to be in a grocery?" And I go, "It's brilliant. Everybody shops for groceries,
they do.
And they shop at HEB. Of course, we're not getting paid for this. We're just talking about the facts here. And so, talk a little bit about your business and tell me where were you before, and when did you decide that you wanted to be Tammy Bateman Properties?
I decided I wanted to be Tammy Bateman Properties whenever I saw that area taking a direction. I had done a lot of work in Memorial, but also in Area 24, which is the famous north of the freeway. I do live in one of the villages north of the freeway, and I saw the value and just watching the growth over the years and what's happening in the Memorial area. So I knew that that corner was going to service that Memorial area both north and south of the freeway. So it just became, it was just a business plan. It was an idea that, quite frankly, when the lawyers looked at the paperwork, they didn't say anything. And I was like, well, aren't you going to say anything? And he said, this is what I'm going to say. That is either going to be a complete failure or it's going to be a resounding success. Well, guess what? It's a resounding success.
I thought it was brilliant. And tell me, when did you do that?
In 2009.
So you've been in business about 4 or 5 years.
Yes. Well, I've been in the real estate business
a long time. That office, on business on your own.
In that location.
And where were you before that? You can talk about it.
Oh, my God.
It's okay. We're all friends here.
Oh, my. Well, I served some time at Martha Turner Properties and John
Doherty.
Doherty.
Nothing to be ashamed of that.
No, it was
Those are good people.
Great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we've been talking about, obviously, I think with David and with Sandra, obviously, we've been talking about a little bit about the south side. You mentioned you live in the villages on the north side. You mentioned
Yes.
Area 24. All that area, basically on the Spring Branch area, a lot of redevelopment going on right now over there. I mean, even though, I tell everybody you have got the villages, et cetera, but Spring Branch is really, within that area, the Memorial area, has really started coming along, and we're really seeing a lot of change going on over there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it's a natural progression because what's happened in Memorial, of course, is prices have become so high that it's hard for anyone to touch anything. So the same thing north of the freeway, the villages, you still have private police and fire. You're in the same school district. You're in a great location, and there's just tons of redevelopment around you. So it was, at one time, it was sort of like the hidden secret. Well, it's not so hidden anymore.
Right. Yeah, because I'm seeing a lot of, one of the things we're seeing a lot of people coming in and saying, I don't want to spend $1 million to be on the south side of the Memorial. I actually want to go on the north side where I can buy a home and renovate it for $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000.
Yes.
And so you're seeing that the value is actually, you're still getting location, you're still getting schools, you're still getting all the amenities that you talked about right there, but you're also getting a price that's a little bit less expensive than moving just across the street right there.
That's right. And what's going to happen there eventually, obviously, is that the prices will become just like south of the freeway. But at the moment, you have all of the benefits of being south of the freeway. You're just north of the freeway.
Right.
And so you're talking about Spring Valley and Hillshire Village, are the two villages north of 10. If I was going to go out and buy a house today and I said, Tammy, look, I'm looking for something in the $400,000 or $500,000 range, am I going to be able to find something?
No.
Because
guess what's happened with that success? You're seeing lot values now in the 400s for the dirt.
Wow.
So, yes.
And so we're seeing people tear those down and renovate them?
I'll just buy one of those lots and pitch a tent.
Pitch a tent. They won't have any problem with that.
There you go. No.
I'm good.
That would last maybe 3 to 5 minutes until the Spring Valley Police found you, because they do love to do their job.
Is that personal experience?
Let's just say they know me.
Yeah. Okay. We'll leave it at that. So,
Yes.
So tell me what the dominant value. I'm talking about somebody's gone in and maybe renovated a home and stuff like that, and I'm looking for say 2,500, 3,000 square foot. What am I going to pay in there?
You're going to pay somewhere in the 500s up.
Okay.
Yes.
And new construction, what am I going to look at?
Now, those have creeped up. We're looking at anywhere starting from 1.1 up to 1.4. There have been a few properties. We've had some in the upper 1.5s and 1.7s, but on an average, I'd say about 1.2 million.
Oh, my. I remember Spring Valley when you could buy in the 200s.
Yes.
Oh, my. So tell me about your business.
That's because you're old, Rob.
Yes, I am old. But I am the godfather of real estate.
See, there was a pause there. I
Yes.
was thinking, should I take that sheet?
Yeah, you did.
And then
You
I went, yeah,
just
sure.
did
Why not?
No, I wouldn't say old. He is experienced.
Yes.
That's
Experience.
seasoned.
And so
Well seasoned.
I had a question
Sorry,
here a
Rob.
moment ago. Sure. No, so you should not
He
do
forgot.
that to an older person. Is that because we're going to
You
forget
got
what
his
we're going to
train of thought all
ask?
off.
No, I want to talk about your typical client. So you've got a buyer client in there. Tell me who they are, what they're looking for, and why they're moving there.
Well, it's somewhat the same answers as what Chris spoke of before. People are looking for proximity. You can go east or west quickly. You can go Energy Corridor. You can go downtown. You've got your private police and fire. You've got the great schools. It's the same answer.
A very interesting thing is I did a loan many years ago. I'm talking about 10 years ago for an individual who was the city planner. He was in charge of City of Houston planning. And so during this process, this is prior to me actually moving to City Center, I asked him, I said, what do you consider, and I always ask this question because I like to ask these questions, what do you consider the new center of Houston? Obviously, you've got downtown, which is considered the downtown, but what is really the center of Houston, which is why City Center is now named City Center? He said that actually Gessner and I-10 is the new center of Houston. And the reason why is it's the closest proximity to northeast, southwest to every major thoroughfare you need to go. If you need to go down south to Pearland or to Clear Lake, you need to go north to the Woodlands area. You need to go northeast over to Kingwood. You need to go west out to Katy. You need to go to Baytown. You're within a 30-minute drive, including traffic most of the times, from that area. And that was technically speaking Gessner and I-10.
Funny you should say that. I often thought about moving inside the loop, but I live in the lakeside area. And the reason I stay there because I can get out to the Beltway, and I can get to Cypress in about 15, 20 minutes. I can get to inside the loop in 15 minutes. I can get to Sugar Land in 20 minutes. I get to Katy in 20, 25 minutes. I mean, it really is a great central location.
Something that's kind of was amazing to me in such a short period of time. My wife's grandmother, before she passed away, lived out in Fulshire, Weston, out there.
Weston Lakes.
Yeah, and it seemed like an eternity.
It's still a good ways out there.
Driving out there.
It hadn't moved any closer.
Yeah, but the city has moved closer.
So the city's moved out to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That with City Center and all the growth that's taking place out there, I was amazed at how much that area has grown up. I mean, when we would head out there, it seemed like I'm driving to the farm, that kind of thing.
Right.
And there's so much more stuff now in between here and there that by the time you really get out to the middle of nowhere feeling, it's only 10 minutes away.
Yeah, and speaking about the burp, so do you find people are kind of transmigrating, that their children have maybe grown and gotten out of home and they want to move closer back in and they're choosing that, or you find all ages transmigrating?
I avoid transmigrating in my diet.
Transmigrating. No, I do see that. What I see a lot is
in saturated fat.
Okay.
Kids who grew up in the Memorial area, and they go off and get their education and get their job. They come back. They want to live in the Memorial area again, and so because of the price point, they can't really touch those. So they'll venture into Spring Branch and get all the other amenities.
Well, and I think what David was saying a bit earlier, and just what you just got through saying as well, is traditionally speaking, when families grow up, the kids want to go back to where they know. Kids want to go back to where they lived, where their childhood memories are, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing I've seen a lot in Memorial, which is don't get me wrong, I grew up from a Latin American perspective, so I'll probably end up doing this to my children, but I see a lot of children end up moving back because their parents are very well off, and they can have some assistance in going back to the Memorial area, to be honest with you, or buying some land, et cetera, right next to them. And so we're seeing a lot of people migrate back in, who you mentioned are part of those families because, number one, they've got families that allow them to do so, but also because I think it's part of what we all do. We all want to migrate back to our roots. We all want to migrate back to what we know. And the fact is also you want to migrate back to a place that is known as being one of the best in Houston for as amenities, lifestyle, education, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree with that. And so I'm talking about a lot of times buyers coming in. Of course, they're getting frustrated. You're saying you can't find a lot of stuff. Do you have any clients right now that you are having a difficult time finding what they want in those specific areas?
Absolutely, which is obviously one of the reasons why our inventory is so low, is the sellers will say, well, I can't put my house on the market because I don't know where I'm going to go. They can't improve it. How can you get any better than where you are?
Yeah, the biggest competitor you have is the house they're in right now.
Yes.
I've always said that. So this is where we beg and plead for people to put their houses on the market. We do this about once a week. And we have been doing it for a long time because really, you know what, we're finding out that the sellers don't like it either. I mean, for that exact reason, they would like to maybe move up or maybe move down, but they're not finding what they want to move into.
Right.
And so it creates kind of like we're having a really brisk market, but there's a lot of people that are not able to do what they want to do because of inventory.
That's right. It is a little bittersweet, a blessing and a curse at the same time. You've got low inventory because the sellers don't want to put the house on the market because it's going to sell, but then where are they going to go? So it's going to have to be something, there's going to have to be what I call a life event occurring for that person where they either are truly being moved or they're retiring or they're doing the scale down. And so they have a reason to go, and otherwise they stay put because there's nothing better.
Yeah, it's a great location without a doubt. So, what other kind of trends are you seeing in that marketplace as far as styles of homes when they come in? They're looking for new construction. What style of home they?
I think it's still consistent and basically traditional, although we see a little bit more, contemporary. But in these neighborhoods, they are tightly deed restricted in what they can do.
And they're saying, I'm paying this much money. I want these amenities. What do they want? The outdoor kitchens and the pools and all the trappings.
The grand chef kitchens open to the den. They're wanting, destination master suites that are spa-like.
Anybody want 2 masters? I think they have a great.
I do.
We are coming up against a break right now. We have the well-seasoned Rob asking all these questions out there. We will have him back pretty soon. But stay tuned. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Give me fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Show, where we are up against our last segment. Man, time flies when you're having fun. I say this all the time. But, now we're coming back to the segment in which y'all get to ask questions, answer questions, general conversations about what's going on, more importantly, again, with the memorial theme that we're talking about. One of the things we were talking about in between breaks right now was saying, I was like, let's talk a little bit about lifestyle and places to eat. And Rob says, City Center, what else is there?
Well, one of the good things about Memorial is you're a little bit away from that. I mean, if you want to be right next to your restaurants, you live in Montrose, Upper Kirby, or River Oaks. But Memorial's great because you're just away from that. But you're, 5-10 minutes from anything you want to go to.
You really do. And, and you also have a lot of places. There's a lot of times I'll go right off of Fountain View. There's a little restaurant over there. I eat breakfast at all the time, right? Really neat little place, eclectic, been there for a long time. Eggs and bacon are really good. So there's a lot of stuff to really go and do. There's also a lot of neat places. If you like shopping, as you mentioned, you're 5 minutes away from the Galleria area over there. My wife knows that place all too well. You've got so many amenities, though, that you can actually do, so many places you can actually do, so many people you can actually see. I mean, it's one of the few places I tell everybody, you can be sitting at a hole-in-the-wall place, really good restaurant, and have, one of the Houston billionaires sitting right next to you, and you wouldn't think anything about it. It's that type of environment. And I've always said that's very important to live in. It's very neat for us to have something like that here in Houston to begin with.
I think it's real fun to go to City Center because if you do have small kids, they can play out on the green. For you shopping addicts, there's tons to shop at, which my husband gets nervous when my daughter and I go there because you've got Sur La Table.
He's got history.
He's got history. He does have history. He's sometimes. Anyway.
Hear that, Dominic? Sometimes you see the bills.
No, I love you, honey. Anyway, but the food. I mean, there's so many different varieties to eat from. My husband and I were at Straits one night, and we look over, and there's our teenage kids over at the Yard House. And we're like, what are y'all doing here? So
did they invite you over a drink?
No.
Okay.
we had to pay for theirs. But I'm just saying there's so much to do, and it's a great place to go for a date night. It's a great place to go with friends. There's just so much to do. Behind our office, we've got Jonathan's Rub. And, I mean, if you want to go in and eat something that's really, really good, that's phenomenal. Rob, you're welcome to come and take me to lunch anytime.
Oh, well, thank you.
So,
thank you.
Any of y'all are.
And you got my favorite barbecue restaurant right around the corner from you.
Absolutely.
Over there. I mean,
Absolutely. So there's
the place.
I mean, you could eat your way through Houston, but and you're right there at the Outer Loop. And that's what we in the burbs call the Beltway is the Outer Loop.
Right. It's the new loop.
It's the new loop.
And I've talked about, and we used to talk about with new construction, we had several builders on the show. We always talk about lifestyles. People are buying lifestyles. So do you see that as a big deciding factor? Great restaurants and things so close by is why they want to be there. Everybody's shaking their heads.
Yeah,
this is radio, folks. You can't.
Absolutely. Yes.
What you're talking about, all the restaurants, all the things to go do, I think really gets back to what is Memorial about, and it's really about the lifestyle in the village, and not so much what you're going to go eat in the rest, but the sidewalk you can from one end of Memorial to the other, ride your bike, run. You see people out doing that all the time. I think the testament to what's great about Memorial is you go out any weekday after school's out or go on the weekends, you're going to see kids playing with each other. You're going to see people out doing things together outside.
Yeah, well, I agree. I go down Memorial quite often. I see people bicycling. I see moms pushing strollers and stuff like that, starting at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So
right.
it's just people feel very comfortable out getting out there.
Well, and you see a lot of people exercising as well, too, because you're so close to Memorial City Park or Memorial Park. You know, you can get out there and go exercise, and you're not so much in the blazing sun. You got a little bit of coverage. You know, you can bike, you can ride, polo, whatever you want to do. You have that capability to do, whereas you may not have that capability as well out in the burbs. And it is a very, what is it, Mayberry RFD kind of feel.
Yeah.
You know, for those of y'all that can remember that. Rob.
that just takes me a lot of places that I'm not going to go. I wasn't going to ask who Goober was. Anyway, let's go back to the amenities and things like that we're talking about, because I think everybody seemed to get really excited and motivated about. What's your favorite place, Tammy, when you go to, say, City Center or those areas out there, what's your favorite place you like to go to?
Well, the beauty of City Center is that everything is there, from sushi, Mexican food, steaks. It really is just whatever you're in the mood for, and it's all good. They're consistently good restaurants.
Fogo de Chao is still my favorite, though.
Can't
get away from Fogo off of Westheimer.
That's not in City Center, Chris.
Yeah,
I know.
And you need a wheelchair when
what
you leave
happens
there.
is they do have
You
Chefs
can't
do
walk.
Brazil, though, and a shout out to them. You need to open for lunchtime. They're only open for dinner, unfortunately.
We'd have to incorporate siestas into our daytime calendar.
Yes.
Because after eating there, you wouldn't be able to do any work afterwards. But remember the Memorial things. In City Center, it's convenient because, you can park and you can walk to any of the things, and there's lots to do, lots to see. What about areas or things and amenities that are kind of like outside of City Center? Anybody that wants to address that?
Well, we were talking about parks, and you've got Terry Hershey Park on the west side, which people like because you can go bike riding and running there. On the east side, you got to go inside the loop to Memorial Park.
The Memorial area does also offer some great clubs. We've got the Houstonian, we've got the Houston Racket Club. If you're wanting to work out in the club, they're just beautiful.
And
so Lifetime Fitness over at City Center is amazing.
You're over there all the time, aren't you?
No, unfortunately, I'm not. I'm a member there, and I very.
Do you know?
I
understand you actually have to show up to get benefits from those clubs.
That is correct. Yeah,
just paying that monthly payment doesn't do it.
The other day I actually put all my change of wardrobe in my car, and it's been there now for a week. And my wife says, "You bring it in so I can wash it," and I go, "Once I use it." So it's one of those things. I definitely but we talk about real estate has been so hot, and business has been. I mean, literally speaking, by the end of the day, I just want to go home and spend some time with my kids because I'm working till 8 o'clock at night. We're getting deals done. We're working Northeast, Southwest. The Memorial area is absolutely and talking a little bit about real estate. One of the things that we're seeing is individuals are coming in, and you don't have the luxury right now of any delayed. I'll give you an example. I was on the phone. Client called in and left a message. I was on literally 3 phone calls in a row, had a meeting, etc. Called back about 3 hours later, this client who called me, and the client told me I had to get a pre-approval right then and there. Unfortunately, I've already had to make another phone call. And so one of the things that we're seeing is that real estate is so hot, you can't afford not to work late. You can't afford to miss the boat. You can't afford to wait 1 hour, because the 1 hour difference right now is the difference between getting a deal and not getting a deal. From an agent perspective, it's the difference between submitting an offer that's going to be approved or submitting an offer that's going to get there 1 minute too late, and guess what? They've already accepted another offer because it was a multiple offer situation. So, one of the things that we tell everybody, it's exciting, and I'm not complaining about it, by the way, but that's sort of the way the market is right now. I mean, the individuals who are professionals, everyone sitting here in this room, we're working nonstop. And I would love to go and spend more time at the gym, but at the same time, I also love what I do. I love the real estate aspect of things.
So that's your excuse. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't deny it.
That was a long, drawn-out way to say this is why I'm not working out.
Yeah, that's right. But, that's a really interesting thing that Sandra, you and I were talking about this morning before the show, is about balance in your life, because you're talking about, you're helping Dominique. He's doing a half Ironman, which you're supporting him on that, and you work with your church, and you do things with your kids, and you're doing your business. How do you keep all that together?
Well, we get up early. When I first started in this industry, my husband was very good to tell me, you've got on your real estate blinders, because you can jump in head first and you're gone. So I had to learn real quick, because our kids were young at that point, and I had to learn how to balance being a wife, a mom, because those are my first 2 jobs. Realtor, a member of our church. You just had to learn how to balance it. And then as we've added people to my team, it's caused that balance to come in. And I do have a coach. I have a real estate coach out of California, Ray Wayne, love her. Hey, Ray. And, she keeps my feet on the right track. So when I kind of veer off, she pulls me back. And I think that has really helped me. She's encouraged me not to do $15 an hour work. She's encouraged me to do what I need to be doing.
If you don't have an assistant, you are one.
That's right.
And it's called working
so it's just
smarter,
hard.
not
harder.
harder.
You do have to learn how to balance, but you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And Davey, you were talking about that too, because you've developed a team, whereas you do, of course, do a lot of your own production, but you also hand off a lot of your business too. That's how you kind of keep a balance in your life.
Balance?
Balance. Well,
as the son of a workaholic.
Yes.
My name's David, and I'm a workaholic as well.
Hi, David.
On Friday, when I'm having drinks and dinner with the friends, and they're all enjoying their Friday night, it's like, hey, only 2 more working days till Monday. But you know what? If you love what you do, you just keep doing it. And, when the market's hot, you got to take it.
Well, you know what? We say this quite frequently on the show that, we're silly, we have a good time and all this sort of thing, but everybody we bring on this show is an expert. There were several little phrases that just kind of slid by that the average person would never pick up on. But
you mean like seasoned?
Yeah, seasoned. Yeah, that's a good one.
Well seasoned.
Well seasoned. No, like the comment that was absolutely brilliant was just a few seconds ago, don't do $15 an hour work. An expert knows that. A new rookie realtor is running around doing $15 work all the time.
Let's start. We're kind of running out of time again. So what would you want to have people take away from the show today, Tammy?
Work smarter, not harder. And have fun. This is great. If you're in this business, you love it, and you just hope that you surround yourself with people who understand that.
How about yourself, David?
The takeaway, I don't know. Right now, I'm just going to keep working hard. I'm going to figure out how to be smart later, but right now, I'm just going to work hard.
Hey, I like that.
Yes.
How about yourself, Sandra?
I would say for us as realtors to remember this is a customer service oriented business, and we buy and sell. The 3 of us buy and sell homes 2-3 times a day, and our clients do not, once every 7 to 10 years. So we've got to keep that in mind and make sure that they're well taken care of. Mm-hmm. So I think just remember it's customer service, and like Tammy said, have fun. It is fun.
I would absolutely agree. Rob, real fast?
Always in awe of our guests. I mean, these people are absolute professionals, and they know the market, and so call them.
I would absolutely agree. You know what I tell everybody is, it's fun, it's exciting, get involved in real estate. Until next time, we will speak with you soon.
And that's the show.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is Frank,
I'm
he's
Dean.
and I'm Sammy.
Yes, he's Dean. That's right. Yeah.
So tune in to the really big show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on 100.7 The Word, KKHT.